So it's time to talk about the app. I need to give a huge shout out to Thinkster for creating this app. When I was creating this workshop, I really wanted to have a real world example of an application to test, but I didn't want to write it. And so I found this amazing thing, realworld.io, just forwards to a repo, and it is so cool. There are implementations in 3 front ends and 3 back ends, and you can mix and match because they share the same API. And so we're using the React and Redux example with the Node and Express example because we do JavaScript, and we'll be testing both sides of it. So a huge thank you to Thinkster for creating this originally. Also a big thanks to, since we're thanking people, big thanks to these people who have helped to contribute to this project. And you can too. If there's anything about this that you don't like, feel free to file a pull request. I am happy to look at that. OK, so here's the app. You should hopefully all have been able to run it. We have a home page, and we have a sign in and a sign up. We have a settings page once you've logged in, and then a place to create new posts, and then the post itself. And so yeah, it's like an actual practical application. It's basically Medium on our little computers here. So there are a lot of flows in here that are pretty important, and some flows that are less important. Like an example of a really important flow would be the registration, and then the article posting. A less important flow would be like favoriting an article or commenting on an article. Some of those things, like they're still really important, but if we're talking about priority of testing things, like that's where we need to think about what's going to prevent users from being able to do the things that are really critical to our business, creating this content. So we'll look at some of those things that we'll be testing a little bit later. So the app folder structure looks like this. So like I said, this repo is like pretty complicated. Hopefully it's in an effort to make the black box simpler for you on the outside. And yeah, so as you're going through the workshop, we're going to start in the API directory. And I'll start in the demo directory. And when I'm doing demos, I discourage you from trying to follow along. I'm not going to be, I'm going to go pretty quick. And if you try to follow along, it'll probably just be frustrating. So this is for me to demonstrate how things work. And then you'll get a chance to actually do tests in the source and test directory. And I'll show you where all that stuff is when we get to it. If you get stuck for some reason, you just want to be able to reference something, the final version of the files that you'll be editing are in the API-final directory. And so it's an example of a solution. And then the client is basically the same way, except the integration tests are grouped with the source integration test for our demo. And then we also have that client final. And then Cypress also is the same thing. There's also a Cypress final for you to reference. And then there's also this instructions thing, which hopefully you won't need a whole lot because I'll just pull things up for you. But if you get lost or something, that will hopefully be helpful.